You have to understand the history of why a lot of Black women feel that way. A lot of Black women were raised in homes where there were no men. We had no choice but to be self-sufficient. We have been used and abused mentally, emotionally, physically over the years to where we have been hardened and forced to kind of align strength with being hard.
What's up, peoples? This episode, we are joined by the illustrious Erica Goodspeed-Mitchell to reveal some hard truths about the long-standing oppression of Black women, as well as the much-needed support from Black men. We're also joined by fellow King Aron Carr as we are pushed into a space of continued learning and a process of healing our hearts. As we do every episode, thank you, each and every one of you, for listening at home. We appreciate you taking the time to participate in these conversations of depth. A special thank you goes out to our Patreon subscribers for their patronage of the show. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to provide and invite our special guests and continue to reveal these truths. A shout out to Gustavo at Camino, California, and Molly's Catering for the nourishment of one of our cast members. I implore you all to check them out at CaminoBrewingShop.com, located in San Jose. And if you want to join in our conversation outside of this cast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at HaveADrinkCast, and make sure to use the hashtag HADcast. Feel free to join in our Discord as well. The link will be in the description. Thank you again, and get prepared to sit, think, and have a drink. Welcome to the Have a Drink podcast. Peace. What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink while we dive into the hearts and minds of the generation. I'm your host, Mr. Z, and we have our co-host.
Hey, it's your boy Omega over here.
And would you please introduce our lovely guest?
Yes, so today we are going to have my absolutely beautiful, illustrious, smart, intelligent, just all-around perfect cousin, Erica Goodspeed-Mitchell here this evening. And welcome, cousin.
Welcome. Thank you. And then we're also joined today by a fellow king and a brother of mine growing up, Aron Carr. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And as always, we're also joined by our brother Richard and Cranberry. Thank you, guys. You're here. Tonight, we're just talking about this topic that's been on my mind, which is the oppression of and the needed support for Black women in society. Not just surrounding, the Black Lives Matter movement or civil rights movements in general, but, within our communities as Black men.
So, Erica, how do you feel maybe you've been supported, or maybe some of the things you've been looking for in society to change, like, have they been brought up with the current movement? Have you seen that in the headlines recently, something that is standing out to you that needs to change?
I would have to agree with the previous statement about, generally speaking, there isn't a whole lot of support for Black women in general. And what comes to mind is I recently lost a friend over this very topic. He and I got into a conversation about, what's happening around the world, what's happening to Black men. And he felt very strongly that as a Black woman, I did not understand the gravity of what Black men experience when they leave the house. And I was kind of taken aback because I was like, how could I not feel the gravity of what my brothers, my sons, my cousins, my male people in my life, the Black men in my life feel as I worry for them as they go out about in this world. And to think that because I'm a Black woman, I don't have an opinion or skin in the game or concern for you all, generally speaking, to me, was a little offensive, because I think that as Black women, we have always worried for our Black men and tried to, you know, create a safe haven and try to be nurturing and create a safe space. And so um, we feel abundantly the danger and the stress that you guys feel when you leave the house. So, you know, I think that a lot of times, when, you know, Black women, they speak out, but it's downplayed the impact that what's happening out in the world to our Black men impacts us.
Mm.
And
I
how
agree.
it
I would say my mom, you know, worries about, you know, whether or not I'm gonna get shot, you know, or like if something's gonna happen if I interact with somebody. And now it's not just the police; it's like normal people that's riled up, you know, pulling guns on people in, you know, grocery parking lots, you know, like everybody's scared, you know. And I think one of the things my mom told me, I don't know if it'll always hold up, but uh, you know, Black women are some of the only people who do know how you feel, you know, in those situations. Because, like, I mean, it's as close as it gets, you know. So I mean, I've never felt that, but like, I think a lot of men want to like martyr themselves in this situation, you know, like bring out what they're going through as, you know, like some like story, you know, like something, you know, that you couldn't even fathom, you know. That's I'm out here every day, you know, like, you know, just that like toxic, you know, masculinity that is so prevalent in the culture. And I would chalk it up to that, you know. I think anybody who's thinking about it would know that you understand, but you know, it's gonna be some, you know, that's always gonna make us look bad. So
You know, what's another crazy thing is the fact that we always see Black women as the support system, but never the lead. You
right,
know, and that's a big issue. Is the fact that we forget. We all know we got a mama, but we always put our mama in the background as somebody to protect, somebody that's always got to be behind us, never somebody that's in front of us, forgetting that she was our leader. Even if we had a father or not in the picture, she was still our matriarch, our leader.
right.
And we have to remember that she is worth protecting, supporting, and being there because she knows what we're going through. And and it really trips me out because I actually have to take a step back and look at that myself. You know, I was thinking about this, and I caught myself like seeing a lot of different movies and everything else, and I was like, what Black movies do I see with strong female leads? And I was like, okay, I named off quite a few, but then I was like, now what Black TV shows with strong Black female leads that I support? Very few. Until I sat back and I was like, well, you know what? I like Issa Rae. Let me check this out. I watched Insecure. I was like, where have I been? This woman is amazing. Her work is amazing. I listened to her book. I started listening, just diving into it. And I'm realizing, I'm like, she is one of the very few voices that is out there, speaking on it. And we're still not showing that support and love like we should be. And it's really important that we do that and start taking a moment to notice these things.
I
Carrie
agree.
Washington has Scandal, but like
Carrie, the teeth
I don't
actor.
know if you can count. I don't know if Scandal one of them that you want to count, because
I think you can count it. You can count it. I mean, she was educated. She was, you know, powerful, articulate. She was a force to be reckoned with. I think that
Amen.
we have a problem though, because we take the Black woman and we make her this strong person, and then we create this slutty counter part of her personality.
She was. So I don't like want to make it about that, but like she was getting passed around by these white men, like in the story. Like it was these powerful white men were passing her around, and I was so disappointed in not being her character. and like it was just like, and then the one brother that was good, she didn't want that, like, you know, like it was like, okay, well.
And you know, and I was a very big fan of that show. But then also, let's take it another step further. How to Get Away with Murder. Who was her husband?
Right, yeah.
But I was having this conversation about Shonda Rhimes in general, because she is an amazing showrunner, show writer. But if you watch any of her shows, Private Practice, Grey's Anatomy, any of her shows, she has strong Black women paired with white men, or the Black men with other races of women. And all of the Black characters that I can think of, because I'm a Shonda Rhimes fan, I've watched Grey's Anatomy 50 times. Mm-hmm. I think one of the only Black characters that had a strong Black companion was her character, Dr. Bailey in Grey's Anatomy. She had a Black husband. That is the only one I can remember in all the shows that she's ever had.
Okay, this kind of gives me. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something? Steve?
Well, I did have a question though, or kind of like another way to look at it a little bit. Because do you think that, you know, the reason why that she made it structured that way, or perceived that way, with her characters' relationship pairings, was because the network wouldn't let her have it another way? Just because there are different, if you look at it from the entertainment point of view, certain networks, certain companies, they have a specific view or specific things that they don't want, topics they don't want to touch, especially when it comes to race and you know,
but usually,
being a parent or something in a show, you know, if it's a Black man saving a little white girl versus from you know, the adoption system, versus like, you know, a white man saving a little Black girl, like there's these topics that, like, some networks, they can't touch those topics, so it's a little harder to put it out there. Or there's that fear that doing it the other way, it'll be looked at as like, oh, they're pandering to an audience, or they're making this political, or you know, possibly the audience might not like it at all. You know,
I would say it's harder to do the interracial thing. Like, I mean, it's not as hard. Like, it's probably like, I would say like having a same sex like couple with a child is probably like the new black and white like couple of the 90s.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just a little bit more risque. But like, two Black leads, I don't know. Two Black leads might be a little bit more crazy than having like a mixed couple. Like Two Black leads kind of makes it a Black show, you know, like we're and
Well,
depending on the time slot, you know, you may not want that. But
about the two Black leads, right? We did have Blackish, but the only thing I do want to say is, one, she was very light skinned. So, and she came from biracial parents. And then also, the only weird thing for me personally, was how he would be kind of, I can't find the word that I'm looking for right now, and I hate to use this term. So please don't charge it to my head, not to my heart, because I'm having a hard time figuring out the word I want to use. But buffoonish. They kind of had him at times acting buffoonish, you know, like a big child. And I hated that they would have Anthony Anderson acting like a big child a lot of times. But he always brought a great message, always had something great to do and to say all the time. But it just always felt like the Black male always had to be a little bit too much of a character than to be what he was, because he couldn't be super strong. And that's why I use the word buffoonish, and I hate to say it like that, but that's the only word that comes to mind. Not coonish, not that. So, all right, go ahead. Now y'all can jump on me.
okay, so to the buffoonish. Okay, so like first of all, like I the two Black leads makes it a Black show, is what I mean though. And when it's a Black show, it has like a slot, you know, like we can't have every family on the network Black, you know, for some reason. Like it wouldn't be like offer it to be white, but like if it was black, it'd be like, is this UPN? Underpaid niggas? You People Network? You know, like is this Thunderback? You know, this is unfamiliar.
I love it. I love it.
That's the thing about like black shows though. But like buffoonish, the thing is like I think almost all sitcom TV fathers have that idiotic nature, like that. Like you see it in the cartoons, you see it in the other TVs, you see like Married with Children, you know, like Family Guy. Like I think that's more the character, and because Anthony has like such like a you know, comedic background, it's easier to give him that role, and then it allows him like to not outshine his wife, you know, like as like the star, like intellectually the head of the family. And I think that like, you know, provides a good space for, you know, like his wife as his backbone, you know. You know, because like it wouldn't be a cool show if Tracy Ellis Ross was out here looking like a damn fool. You know,
not at all.
I take Anthony, but like if Tracy Ellis Ross, I'd be like, oh, okay, they really don't get it, you know. But
I love the show.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like once we have like the Wayans Brothers show, great example. Once we have Two Black Leads, it's a black show, and I'm curious to see like when those dynamics will change. You know, like when it'll be people, or when it'll be like you know, Asian dude, Indian dude, black dude, like it'll be everybody else but that. You know.
Yeah, because the Carmichael show, like, I mean, did you guys see Black AF? Did everybody see Black AF?
I haven't watched it, but like I'm just like not good with television.
Nah, it's all good. So I'll pretty much put it like this: Black AF is an uncensored Blackish show. So take Blackish but uncensored.
Okay.
Made for cable. That's pretty much what Black AF boils down to, because it was created by the man who made Blackish. That's pretty much a story on his life. That's pretty much what the show is. Just a richer Blackish. And my brother was like, yo, you should watch the Carmichael show if you really like this, right? And I watched the Carmichael show, and I was like, Carmichael show was probably the blackest television show I ever seen. And I loved every minute of it because of the content, the reactions, the way the characters developed, but also just the things that they said, and not just in the comedic timing, but just the writing of it was so authentic. Like there would be things that were said that you'd be like, you would say it in your head, and then the character would actually say it, and you'd be like, oh man, that was like the blackest thing they could actually say, you know, because that's exactly what we would say, you know. And that's why I was like, that show was like gold, but it only had, I think, 1 season or maybe 2 seasons. They had 3 seasons. They were short seasons though, because I watched it in like a day and a half. Yeah, I watched the whole Carmichael show in like a day and a half, almost 2 days.
I just have to say this. Omega, great introduction. I've never heard so many adjectives used for someone. But anyways, please continue, y'all.
What were we talking about? The couple question? Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just wondering how you guys people of color, or you know, black people specifically, with white partners that are trying, or you know, like are in the community to, you know, support black people, you know, be Black Lives Matter, but you got like a white spouse at home. Like a lot of times in the community, we like see that, and then that person will lose credibility. And I mean, a lot of times I understand, but like, yeah, I was just curious what you guys felt about that. People like AOC, like she has a white spouse, like the Muslim women in Congress, you know, that like we're kind of looking to like have white spouses. And like you said, a lot of times with those high status like black women, like they seem to get matched up with those high status like white males, you know, like how do you guys feel about their contributions potentially to like a Black Lives Matter movement or being pro-Black, you know, when, you know?
Great question. I'm kind of curious before I answer one of us. Erica, if you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear your opinion.
I feel like this is a trap.
No trap.
Wrong. Like we still have Serena Williams. She's still good.
So before I answer, I want to clarify. Are you specifically asking my thoughts on what I feel Black people who marry other races bring to the movement, or what their spouses bring to the movement?
No. Oh yeah, no, nothing about the spouses specifically. I'm specifically talking about the Black person or the POC that like that's for the movement, but like they like obviously, you know.
So I guess more so the question, if I can clarify, are you saying, you know, the credibility of the person
Right.
of color, the Black person?
A lot of times that's common. Their credibility goes out the window, but I'm more referring to just how you feel about that. Is that like, is like, are they still legitimate? Like, would you still respect what they have to say, or in the back of your mind, it's like, oh, he married to a white girl, you know, like something like that, you know?
So I have a couple of thoughts. My first thought is I absolutely feel that as a person of color, a Black person, if you choose to marry outside of your race and you do it because that is your preference, but not on the back of or in the face of demeaning the women of your own race, fine, that's your choice. So many times you hear Black men or Black women say, well, I date this other race because Black men or Black women aren't fill in your descriptive word, right? I have a problem with that because many of the things that they reference when they say that are not specific to Black men or Black women.
Yeah.
So if you have a preference and that's what you prefer, then I support that, but don't do it on my back or on the backs of others. So that's my first thought. My second thought is I do believe that someone can be pro something. You can be supportive of Black Lives Matter. You can be supportive of the movement and of your people. But what I struggle with is how can you be pro-Black if when you procreate, you are not adding to us. You're not adding to us. And so I feel, and I know that's kind of, people always say, well, that's kind of a controversial area, but that's how I feel. How can you be for us if you aren't growing us? You're not supporting us. And not to say that biracial children are not Black, but at the same time, we're us. You're not supporting us. So I agree with they lose credibility. I feel like you can't toe the line. You can't be lukewarm. You're either for us or you're not. And I think you can't sleep with the enemy, especially as it relates to the relationship that Black or people of color have with white people. And I feel personally, I could never date a white man. I love my Black kings. I think you guys are amazing. You're irreplaceable. Your swag, the way you carry yourself, your talent, your creativity, it cannot be replaced. There's nothing like you. So I just couldn't do this. One day I'm gonna come home from work and I'm gonna be like, those white people pissed me off. And I want to be able to say that to someone who understands where I'm coming from.
Well, if she had a microphone, I'm sure she would have dropped it. Man, cousin, that was beautiful. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
No, that was great. And the reason why I'm jumping in on this now is because I'm going to be coming from the man who is a BLM supporter, whose wife is not white, putting that out there, but she's not Black. My wife is Mexican. And she's out there with me. You know what I'm saying? And I 100% understand where my cousin is coming from. And not only do I understand it, but I support her in her feelings because it's the truth. And it's something that I have to deal with. And I say deal with is because for me and my proximity, they just didn't choose me. And that was just me. And I tried time and time again, and there were just some few that just didn't work for me. And that was just me. And it hurts to know that I probably hurt those women in my family or my culture at their core. It hurts me. But to see the relationship that they have with my wife means so much more, because they see past who she is. They see past what she is. They see who she is. And this woman is on the front lines with me and calls me her king and sees me as her king, and is also out there, like, we're brown berets. So we're out there, we're supporting the Mexican cause as well as the black cause, because you know what? We're on the same lines together to an extent. Notice how I say to an extent. I didn't say fully. And I could see how that could be, because I have two sisters. I have a black mother. I have that. So I can see where everybody else has married black, with the exception of myself and a couple of my siblings. And the conversations that have been had have been crazy. But it also comes with how does your spouse come to that relationship, as well as how do they come to the lines and show their support for you, but also have the understanding and know their place in that role and their role. Because for me, when we have to step up for any Mexican rights or anything else, that any type of causes that are represented or she feels, I know my place is support for her. She speaks, I stand, and I hold her strong. That's how it is. And vice versa.
What's up, Eddie? Saw you repping a mask
What's up, bro?
earlier.
Oh yeah, I'm creeping in. I'm actually on my lunch break. I just had to step outside the hospital for a minute. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I hear both of y'all, and I love both of y'all takes. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Omega. My standpoint, I think, especially like with the times we live in, it's just like, it's actually, I feel like, a more of a weight right now, since, now in comparison, let's say 5-10 years ago, I feel like there's been more of an awakening. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to say that word, but I feel like people are finally starting to understand. When I mean people, I mean most of America. Oh, snap. Y'all aren't lying. This has been going on. We haven't been listening. We've been saying it, whatever. So anyways, number one, who you love is who you love. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. We have different beliefs around here, and that's fine and dandy. But it's just like, hey, my belief, if that's who God intended you to be with, cool. Do you have all the love and all the fun in the world? Cool. But if it's up to me, when it comes to white people, I don't want to have to explain my culture to you. I don't want to have to explain what this means, what that means. I don't want to have to explain. And Omega, you can understand this. I don't want to have to explain to you the significance of what my school's homecoming is. You know what I'm saying? And like how much it means to me. It's small, but it's like little things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like why every fall, some random Saturday in fall, oh, I'm going to be at my school and I'm going to tear it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and why it means so much. Like, I don't want to have to explain why black quarterbacks have been getting shafted in the NFL for as long as I can remember. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have to explain all these things. But also, it's just, I just want somebody who just gets me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ask me, the black woman is the most beautiful being God has ever created. That's number one, right? Number two, they're the most criticized but imitated beings in the entire world. This has been documented. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like only two black people can really understand. I'm sorry, maybe not black people. Minorities can understand, but I feel like two black people can just really understand. And I don't mean to offend anyone. It's just my take. Can understand, hey, I know how the world treats you. I know how the world treats you too. Let's try to do this. You know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, you can have conversations. Minds can be changed. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. I'm not above correction. Please let me know. I'm not trying to be boo-boo the fool out here. This is just my take. I don't want to have to explain to you the anxiety I get when I see a cop behind me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have to explain to you why, I dapped up 10 brothers I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, just for just existing. You know what I'm saying? Just for my man. No, I don't know that brother at all, but I hope he's well. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have to explain these things to you. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. A lot of times just being a minority, you can get and understand, but will you ever truly know? I don't think that's the case. But who you love is who you love. It feels up to me. Give me a black queen. Yeah, that's my take. Hope that makes sense. Also, if I'm wrong, please correct me, guys.
I think everyone has said something that's truly valuable. Like Rich said, I think it depends on if you marry another minority versus someone that's white. It's going to be hard to explain if it's a black queen and a white man. My son was pulled over and experienced police brutality. And how is that other guy going to be able to understand and actually empathize with him? But one thing I heard a while back was who you marry is a political statement. So there are some black men that marry opposite race because they don't like their own race. And there are some black men that just say, you know what, I never got the chance to hook up with a queen. This is who I wanted to be in relation with. The one thing that I question is if you are in a relationship with an interracial person, in a person that's other than black, I question when you say we need to build up the black community more unless you did a business deal for the marriage, but that's a totally separate thing. I don't see how you can do that completely and be honest in your thoughts. Like, if you marry a white person, that's cool, but don't say I'm 24/7 pro-black on everything. Because on one thing you weren't, or let's say I married someone white and I moved to the suburbs and I rarely go back to the hood. I don't support any black-owned businesses. I don't go to a black church. I don't attend black gatherings. What type of black community are you supporting? Or is it just all in your head? So I think we have to start evaluating people's actions more than their words when they say I'm pro-black.
Aaron, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second. But kind of like people have dichotomies and dualities. Like, if you were doing everything for everything like that was you that you wanted, like, for black people, would I don't know, like, would that be better? Would that make you like a better BLM member? Okay, so like part of how I feel like a culture like hip hop has exploded is that, like, it is encompassing, it's like it's dominant because, like, it's open, generally speaking, and it's easy to be an active participant, it's easy to show, like, your skill, not necessarily like your blackness, but like your skill in this medium, and be accepted by the culture. And that's how I feel like, like hip hop is expanded to mumble rap. We got, like, Lil Uzi, like, want to be a rock star, and we accept him and support him. And we got, niggas want to sing. We got, like, all these everybody in hip hop branching out into, like, pop rap, like Drake, like it's pop rap, you know, it's pop music, you know, like uh as we expand, um how do we continue to like keep that blackness while allowing others in, you know, because I don't think that the culture can grow um in and of itself and with in isolation, you know. It's kind of like how we like how could we expect America to grow in isolation? How can we like expect any flower to grow in isolation? How do you guys feel about something like that? Like not necessarily like taking it as not supporting your own culture, but growing it um by like kind of assimilating others, you know.
So, this is going to be a compounded answer, if I may. So, like I said, there was a lot to unpack with my answer. Um, Being someone who has in the past, um, dated white women, non-black women, um, in the beginning of my life, I had bullshit reasons, you know. I had all of those answers that people thought and felt of, or even said, of like, oh, because they're angry, or um, they don't like me, or they think I'm weird, or they call me this, or they look at me that way, or I'm not seen as like a strong man, or whatever. Um, and a lot of this I'm also taking because I did a lot of research on this recently, and mostly today I stumbled across a show by let's see if I can get the name right, Iyanla Vanzant. It's called Fix My Life on the Oprah Winfrey Network. And the episodes that I stumbled across were the myth of the angry black woman. And in those series of episodes, she invited black men on who exclusively didn't date black women, and talked about their reasonings. And there was a time in my life where I had those exact reasonings, maybe not exactly, but I had those reasonings. And I gave some excuse of like, oh, it's like family, like I feel weird dating family or what have you. And then I had a conversation with a black queen at Six Flags while I was working there. And um, we had this conversation. She asked me, she was like, like, you don't date black women? And so we got into it. And at the time, I didn't see it, but I felt the pain trickling in, not my own, but the pain from what I was saying. And over the course of the next couple of months, over the course of like a year or so, it started to seep in more and more, and it hurt me inside knowing that I hurt someone who I look at with love just because of some bullshit excuse. Um, and I brought up the show earlier because they dove deeper down into it of why, you know, why people felt that way, why these men felt that way. And it helped me uncover a lot of those reasonings. Some of the excuse was, or some of like the reasonings that came up were, if I can get this correct, I wrote them down, was the resentment and frustration with the opposite sex and self. They're of what you said earlier. I forgot who mentioned it, but of like feeling that resentment. Oh yeah, Erica. So the feeling that resentment, or that pain of like some level of hatred for myself. My environment growing up, because my dad was black, and my other side of my family, they could pass as white. They mixed with Egyptian, Arab and Chinese. So fair skin on top of other fair skins, that was mixed in. And so a lot of that too was environmental. So my grandfather, he was racist. He didn't like my dad. My sisters, their dads were black, and so they're mixed growing up, and so they would say, don't call me black, I'm not black. And it made me feel like I was darker than them as I started getting older, and I spent more time in the sun, and they were and they would be like, oh no, you don't want to do that, you don't want to be darker. And I'm like, why? And it made me feel some type of way. It made me feel confused about who I am, on if I was going to feel loved, if I was going to feel accepted for being that. So internalizing that. But like, as an adult, you're supposed to be able to like acknowledge those things, recognize it, and work to heal those. And over that course of time, it started unfolding for me, that this was what I had experienced growing up. And so I had those ideals. Throughout my life, I even dated black women, I just had this weird excuse at some point in my life as to why I didn't want to have a committed relationship, I could say, express more clearly. I didn't want to have a committed relationship versus just dating, and like I said, since then, trying to find healing around that and trying to work to heal, even just starting with that connection, that relationship, that communication that I had with the person I worked with, trying to heal that, and to continue to fight and to continue to speak up and to continue to be just as loud as I was before, like now speaking out and being like, yes, I thought this way, I felt this way, but people can grow and change, and I could recognize and admit where I was wrong and am wrong, and move forward from there into supporting. And it's also what sparked this conversation for tonight, because as I'm editing the other episode, as I'm going through all these things, the fact that it's slapped in my face multiple times through all like the different resources and what have you, of like, black women are not being supported, black women are not being supported by black men, black men are like, some black men exclusively don't date black women, and like all these things. And I'm like, we need to talk about this, because it's not okay for us as men to continue to just talk about us and our experiences. Yeah, that's what we're here for, but at the same time, to be able to give a voice and to be just as loud about their problems as we are about ours. More so talking towards feeling the credibility of somebody who's with someone who's not black. I also had that feeling recently of have feeling exhausted and tired of having to explain my struggle, every little bit of my struggle. Why you shouldn't speed through that light while I'm sitting in the passenger seat.
Right.
Because if we get pulled over, they're not going to be concerned with you. They're going to look at me as a black man, and I could possibly get shot and die. I expressed in the midst of this to someone that like I had to let it out. I was like, I don't know. In the future, I don't want to be with someone who's not a person of color, because having to have that connection, having to explain that, it's harder than being with someone who recognizes it. But I mean, me being a person who is speaking out and who is supporting and who is trying to help further the movement, and not being someone with a person of color, I'm like, I don't feel like that negates my credibility. Personally, I feel like that helps me bridge a gap that wasn't there. I can also at the same time say, I know I was wrong and have been wrong and am wrong frequently. But like, I also have the ability now to kind of educate and give more back to more than just our community, you know?
Very well said, and thank you for opening up like that. That was very important. It was a very important viewpoint. Um, before Eddie, before you go, because I know you do have to get back to work soon, I do want to give you a moment to have your voice and speak out and speak. And then from there, I would like to throw it back to Erica.
Thank you, sir. So, sorry if I'm all over the place. I usually get more time to think about my answer, but I've dated Black women, you know, all of my adult life. Y'all know my wife is Black as hell, you know, and but my grandmother on my mom's side, you know, she's half white. So I think if the love was more spread around, this world would be in a much better place, you know. So I honestly don't have anything wrong with interracial relationships. Like, you know, you should be free to love who you love. But with that being said, at this time where Black women and Black men aren't being valued by pretty much anybody, you know, that's the time where, you know, we should stick together. It's almost similar to the kid getting picked on in, you know, in school. If a kid's getting picked on in school, right, and he's by himself, he seems to be more depressed than the kid who's getting picked on and hangs out with the other kids who are getting picked on. You know, at least they can have each other's back. At least you got somebody to hold on to who can understand your struggle. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I don't see anything wrong with interracial relationship, but at this time, it's pretty hard to step out of your race and date somebody, because even if that person agrees with you, you might have to battle with their family. You know, you might have to explain to them or feel uncomfortable. Now, I did date a white, I did date a white woman, like when I was 18, and you know, she was cool. Her mom was cool, but her dad and everybody else said they were cool, but you know, they didn't. You know, I just didn't feel that comfort, that at home feeling that I felt when I dated Black women. You know, so yeah, that's what I did for me.
That was awesome, Eddie. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that. That was, wow. That was very, very great. Um, you know, as I'm sitting here listening to both what you guys are saying and processing this question, something kind of dawned on me. So, Erica, remember, where was the one place that we were always at when we were growing up? If we weren't at the house, where were we? At church, right? We were always at church. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys understand that. And I kind of realized when I was in church, that was when I dated more Black girls. That was when I was more attracted to Black girls. And it was because I was around more Black people at that time. Once I was away from church as much as I was, my surroundings changed. So therefore, I wasn't around as many Black people anymore. And I really started to think about that. Like, I'm sitting here like, once I made it to the demo team, I was rarely going to church on Sundays, and I was rarely going to events anymore because I was too busy traveling, training, or doing something. So I was always surrounded by other people and not by Black people. And I realized that. And then it started to make me think about, you choose who you're surrounded by. You're attracted to who you are around. You know what I mean? It's like I could love Black women with everything in me, and I do. But if I'm not around them and all I have is other, what am I going to choose? Eventually that's going to happen. Not saying I'm pushing them aside. It's just, that's just what was there at that time. And that's kind of what I started to see. Not saying that, I mean, I wouldn't choose my wife if she wasn't around me. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's just, that's just the facts, you know. It's your proximity. What's in your proximity is what you are going to be chosen to or attracted to. Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to say. Erica, I kind of want to change the conversation a little bit and go to, how could we support you, or other Black women in the community? How could we be more supportive and there for you?
So I have many thoughts. So I'm trying to pick one.
Take your time, sister. Take your time.
I want to say this. I can't speak for all Black women, but I can say that I've had this conversation with many Black women over the course of years. And I can say that when we see our Black men dating outside of us, it is hurtful. And it's hurtful mostly because systematically over the years, we have lost you all in various ways, either to the streets, to jail, to women of other races. And when you think about how many single Black women there are, many of us are single because our preference is Black men, and the Black men around us are not choosing us. They're not choosing us because they say they want us to be natural, but yet they date the women who look like the Kardashians. They say they want you to wear your natural hair, but they date the women who have weaves. So I think it leaves us women feeling confused about who we are, which feeds the anger that many men talk about, the angry Black woman, because we are trying to find ourselves and love ourselves and get love from you amongst the world. Your question was, what can Black men do? Be consistent in your messaging to us. Basically what I was saying earlier is that Black men tell us they want us to be natural, but they date the women with the weaves. They say they love us in our natural form, but they date the women who've augmented their bodies. That is confusing to us because you're telling us, no, queen, you're enough, be yourself. But then you go choose other people who don't look like us. So either we're enough or we're not. And many women feel lost in themselves because the men who look like us don't love us. They don't treat us like they love us. But generally speaking, just being consistent in how you're messaging, interacting, and talking with us just helps a lot.
I want to jump to a tweet I saw. Young lady that I work with, her name is Martina Abrahams. She's great. She's amazing. We worked together on the You Had Me at Black podcast. So she tweeted something, and I just want to quote it. She said, "I just like to tweet related to this, but I'm not a fan of, quote unquote, protect Black women. How about abolish the things that endanger Black women? Because who or what are you protecting us from? We wouldn't need protection if men held themselves and each other accountable." And to me, that just it just pushed it forward for me. I never thought of it. Of course, you're going to protect, any threat, but that just lets me know we got to go deeper, because it's deeply interwoven, it's deeply seated, it's literally in the fabric, So, but also I do appreciate Erica and what she was saying. And y'all know me, I'm going to ask somebody a question. Somebody going to get any kind of question. So one thing I've done now, especially with I feel like understanding feelings and emotions now, I ask my female friends, my women friends, hey, where did we drop the ball? What can we do? A lot of answers are different and a lot of the answers are the same. And so I feel like just asking a woman, what you were doing now, Omega, hey, what can we do better? That's the best answer. You're literally going straight to the source. But I saw that, and I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Richard. That was a wonderful tweet and a wonderful thing you just shared with us.
I have no idea what you heard of what I said before, so I'm not going to go back to the beginning. But I think one of the things that comes to mind, both personally and professionally, is being an advocate for us. So stepping out of the personal realm a little bit and stepping into the professional realm, I was in a meeting a few weeks ago, and this lady all but called me an angry Black woman on the phone. And there was a Black male leader on the call, and he was crickets. Nothing about what I said or what I was doing was angry at all. But nobody advocated for me. And this lady continued to apologize on my behalf as if my conduct was unprofessional, which it wasn't. And so she continued to steadily dig herself into a hole, to the point where after the fact, people reached out to me and apologized. Everyone reached out to me except for that Black man. So I need to know that my Black men are my advocate. Just like I would go to bat for them, I would love for them to go to bat for me, both personally and professionally. Because if there's no one in my corner, I should at least know that the other Black person in the room is in my corner. And oftentimes, when I need that support or I need that advocate and a Black man is present, they're not advocating for me. So that's one of the biggest things that I can think of when it comes to, and even personally, I watched the video and it was, I hate to say that I took pleasure in it, but this white guy attacked this Black woman, snuck her, punched her, beat her up. And then this Black man, bystander, jumped in and defended her. That's the level of commitment Black women need from Black men, whether we're in a relationship with you or not. We need to know that you are part of our community, that you have our back, that you're going to support us, and you're going to be there.
First of all, do you need me to come up to your job tomorrow? Because I'll take the day off.
Cousin, I got her together. She was all the way.
I ain't talking about her. I'm talking about, I'm going to check Mr. Man.
Oh, I'm not worried about him either.
I didn't say you worried about him. I said, do you need me to come up there and check him? Because believe me, I'll be there in a quick jiffy.
He's an extra special person, so we just going to let him be where he is. But, he and I have had conversations because we have a Black professional network at my company. And so there will be a time and place where I will address him about this incident. And I know that he will remember because the white people on the call, they were impacted by what occurred. So he and I will be having a conversation. But, that's the type of stuff that you would expect. I wouldn't even have to say one word, that before I even open my mouth as a leader, as a Black male leader, you would have just come to my defense. Like, whoa. We're not going to do that right now. And that's not what happened.
What's crazy is last night I was out downtown with one of my boys. We were going to go record a dance session, right? And crazy thing, just to kind of tag on to what you were just talking about. There was this, I hate to assume it, but I think it's safe to say, this homeless Black woman was arguing with these two drunk white males. And when I say arguing, she crossed the street, and in the middle of the street, she is yelling at them, and they're having the war of words. And I'm at a complete stop. My boy is right behind me in his car. When I say they were directly at my back bumper, arguing, and he was stepping up to this Black woman, I put my car in park, took my seatbelt off. She moved to the side to where she was safe on my side of my car. So I was like, okay, I'm good. But she was still arguing. She moved to the front of my car. Same thing. He stepped up in front of her. My hand was on the door, ready. She said she had a blade on her, so I didn't want to jump out right away because she's going to stick me. I'll just on the street bleeding. But she said she had a blade, but I was ready. Because I was like, ain't nobody else saying nothing. I see one other Black dude rolling up, but he was quiet. And all I know is it was like me and my boy both, we had the same idea. As soon as he gets a little too close or she says something that tells me she needs my help, I'm in like Flint. And nobody gonna say two things about it. She going to say, nope. And I'm gonna be all over these cats because this conversation is what I was thinking. He shouldn't be out there and disrespected her. Of course, she was giving him the tongue lashing and she could support herself. She could protect herself. Obviously, she said, don't make me stick you. I got this blade. And she had reached at her hip. I was like, uh-oh, she's gonna stab me too. She might not know I'm a brother here to help her. But she was ready. But still, she needed to have a support system, somebody there for her. And that's why we stayed in the middle of the street, light green, everything. People drove by, people were honking. but we stayed right there to make sure that she was going to be safe. And I feel like that's something that's not happening enough anymore, is we don't look out for each other, make sure that we're safe, make sure our women are safe. Because the only thing I could think of is, what if that was my mother in the middle of the street arguing or having to speak up for herself? What if that was my sister? What if that was my auntie? What if that was my cousin? I couldn't do it. So to hear that that man was on the call and didn't stand up to help you, that really bothered me. That really bothers me. I know you ain't got, you are fine to take care of yourself. I know you got them hands, and you got that tongue that'll probably cut up the devil himself. But still, you still need to have somebody to be there to have your back. And I'm always going to have it. Believe that.
And this, thank you both for sharing that. This is exactly the reason why I felt it's important for us to have this conversation, for more people to have these kinds of conversations. Erica, quickly, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and by all means, I hope you don't feel any pressure from this question. What would you say, or what do you say in response to what I had said earlier, I guess, about myself and growing? Do you feel a person can change from that point of view, to be able to be someone who's representing, who's supporting, who's, being active and out there and all for the cause? Or do you feel like just empty words?
I think a person can change. Life has a way of humbling us and showing us truth. So I feel like, especially as we get older, we grow, we, gain wisdom. So, I think it's possible. And I think it's happening on a larger scale right now. I feel like we are becoming closer to a unified front and a unified one in the Black community. As things are occurring around us, we have no one but each other, not the government. There are some people of color that we have in terms of advocates, but ultimately it is largely on us to, seek refuge in one another. And so I see that that's happening. In reference to what you shared earlier, one of the things that, kind of jumped out to me when you were talking about the show that you were watching, the reasons that Black men give for not wanting to engage or date Black women, I'm pretty sure I've heard them all. And I think that, like I said earlier, if you choose to love someone else or have a preference, I have no problem with that. The problem for me occurs when men do that on the backs of others. Well, I don't date Black women because they're angry or they're bossy or controlling. And you have to understand the history of why a lot of Black women feel that way. A lot of Black women were raised in homes where there were no men. We had no choice but to be self-sufficient. We have been used and abused mentally, emotionally, physically over the years, to where we have been hardened and forced to kind of align strength with being hard, because that is what's gotten us through. Not to say that that's right, but in considering, when you think about Black women being angry, and you think about Black women, having certain baggage, you have to understand where that comes from. We didn't wake up that way and become, combative or become argumentative. We have so much pain and frustration from being passed over by others and by our own, and demeaned and degraded. It's almost become an expectation that you're going to be passed over or skipped by a Black man. I know that I went out with some girlfriends to a Black event, and there were other women there, others, And the men flocked to them. They were in a room full of beautiful Black women, and they flocked to the other women who looked nothing like us. And so when you talk about, that individual work that you had to do as a person, I think many of us need to do that. We need to ask why we don't love the women who look like us, or why we don't love the men who look like us, because we should. And, we need to understand that when we choose others, when there's Black women or Black men readily available, it just continues to perpetuate whatever pain and divide we have in our community.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. It's interesting too, because as you mentioned that show, a lot of the reasoning, the underlying, because you know how in society a lot of people have issues, and they have certain symptoms of a deeper rooted problem. This one they found stemming from, like it did on both sides, but stemming from like their home situation. For the Black men, it's their relationship with their mothers. Either was estranged, or it was not, it was not healthy in that sense. And then on the other side, on the flip side, you have Black women who are being sexualized by their own family members. A lot of what the women shared on the show, and how they opened up, was about a lot of trauma that they experienced firsthand from the men who were supposed to care about them. The trauma of abandonment from a guy who lived a father who lived three doors down from his daughter and refused to go see her. And so of course, these actions continue to hurt and scar others in ways that has lasting effects. Something they said on that show, and then I heard in another podcast by this little 8-year-old, and something that we've said here too, which is hurt people. It's just hurt people hurting other people. We don't feel accepted or loved, so we look elsewhere for it. Or when we get there, we get to that point, we're reacting in a way of how we know this was done towards us, so we do that towards others. But yeah, there's a quote that actually it's a poem that Iyanla read during the show, and I implore all of you guys, if you haven't yet, to go watch it. Season 4, most importantly, starts from the first episode and goes to like the 10th episode, I believe. But they have 4 parts of dispelling the myth of the angry Black woman, and then there's like this breather in between, and then it goes on to healing the hearts of Black men, of which I was on before we started the podcast. And I'm like, after this, I'm gonna go finish the rest of it. But this journey has opened my eyes to a lot of different things, and it's helped me see a lot of different connections to a lot of what we say too here. So if you don't mind, I was going to read it real quick, but the poem is by Jackson Kiddard. It says, anything that annoys you is there to teach you patience. Anyone who abandons you is for teaching you how to stand up on your own 2 feet. Anything that angers you is for teaching you forgiveness and compassion. Anything that has power over you is for teaching you how to take your power back. Anything you hate is for teaching you unconditional love. Anything you fear is for teaching you courage to overcome your fear. And anything you can't control is for teaching you how to let go and trust the universe.
That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. Please send that to all of us, as well as put that in the Discord.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course. That speaks volumes, because it's in a process of healing. you have to start from a place of understanding and then move on to work on forgiving yourself and those, and for even, you know, feeling those ways, you know, and to let yourself know it's okay. But this is it, I thought that was wonderful. But if I could shift just a little bit, um, a lot of the stuff that I was uncovering was this unveiling of our history, you know, our history through civil rights, our history through this movement, our history for you know, just a justice and equity for all. And it was started by a lot of powerful Black intelligent women. Like they, one one person in particular comes to mind, and that is Malcolm X's mother. If I want to get her name right, I think it's Louise Little. You know how she was the foundation of his ideals on internationalism, on feminism, on, you know, the support and you know, the building of the Black community. You know, he has his quote saying, um, the most oppressed and disrespected person on this planet is the Black woman. You know, we didn't, I don't think we've seen just how fundamental Black women have been to everything, but not only that, but how discriminated against they have been by being forced into this category. So when everyone started rising up and saying, you know, these Black men are being killed, you know, they kept that narrative. It's Black men. It's Black men. It's our Black men are being killed. Like, stop killing our Black men. So once that attention and all that stuff started flowing and trying to take movement, they stopped looking at Black men, and it started being geared towards Black women. You know, Black women started to be put into this box of only being able to work in certain sectors of employment, you know, of being in the care service industry, you know, being forced into these roles of caregivers, of being, quote, mammies. You know, you could take care of my kids, you know, taking the role of nanny and going and raising the children and showing them unconditional love. You know, the role of the parent. You know, over this course of time, you saw an uptick of Black women in the workforce and a decline of white women in the workforce, so that white women can stay at home and be housewives while the Black women are working and taking care of the children and doing what the, quote, roles at the time were of the housewife.
Now, let me jump in on that because it's very interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about Beyonce being the greatest artist of all time. Don't worry about that. But it's crazy is because I just heard something like a week ago about how they were talking about how Black women were the ones that raised the kids for their slave masters, or just in general. They are always the ones that, the homemakers, they were the ones that raised the kids. They were the ones that taught the kids. They were the ones that did everything. And they were like, have you ever seen white housekeepers that did that? No, it's always people of color or Black women. So it's always going to be a Latin minority or a Black woman that is in charge of the children. And that spoke volumes to me. And then I actually stepped back and looked at it, and I was like, I don't know any white women that do that. Not saying that they don't take care of their own household. I'm just saying in that profession, majority of them have always been Black women or Latin women. And it made me wonder. It was like, why is that? Why is it that you will trust our women with your children, but nothing else?
Well, a lot of that. Sorry, Cranberry. I'm gonna make this quick, and then I'll let you answer. But a lot of that came from what I was saying, or where I was going with it was like it was a way of oppression. So keeping them in these service jobs and looking at it like that, like you had even back in what was it, 1619, during like slave times, you know, you had the housekeepers, you had the black servants that were taking care of the households, that were cooking, cleaning, you know, taking care of the kids and doing all that, because it was, you know, obviously it was like this hierarchy, you know, like we don't do any of this manual labor or hard stuff. You handle all of my baggage, all of my hard shit, and then you go forward. But with the continued throughout time, you know, with that rise in black women going into work and white women not going into work, they also, it made it harder for black women to go on public assistance, but it made it easier for white women to go on public assistance, because they were not within this category of you know, like the rigid grouping of work, you know, and you know, it just, and that put all of the weight, all of the support on black women's shoulders to support black males who were being arrested, who made it harder for them to get jobs, you know, and so on and so forth. The, you know, systematic racism, you know, that little thing, systematic racism. But Cranberry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I think, like, pointing back to what O was saying about how Black women and Latin women are caring for a lot of our children. I was watching this interview with D.L. Hughley on MSNBC, and it was an interesting comment that this white woman had told him, and I think it's actually accurate to depict race relations in America. America is not comfortable with a black woman being on a $20 bill. However, they are comfortable with a black woman being on a pancake box. So until that narrative changes, we have to appreciate our black women, not only just from black men, but from other races as well.
Agreed.
Erica, weigh in on that. I see you licking your lips. You look like you ready to say something fire right now. I'm like, oh man. Ooh.
No, I was just thinking, like, so, and Anthony, you know this, or Omega, sorry for nicking names. My mom was a nanny. My mom was a nanny for 20 years. She was employed by a white family, and she raised their kids until they didn't need a nanny. And then she went to another white family and raised those kids until she was ready to retire, all while raising me and my sister. And there were many weekends that we went with her to work, where she was essentially raising these other kids, her other family, and she's still in contact with them. And it is very interesting because my mom didn't get her GED until she was in her 40s. She wasn't, you know, well educated, not lacking in intelligence, but just not educated, you know, on paper. And I think about how that has structured my drive to make sure that I was not in that industry, and, you know, making sure that I was in a professional setting. And then I think about how that feeds directly into my struggle of, I'm a single mother. I have 2 children. And so I am very much an active mother, and I'm trying to balance being a professional. I'm trying to balance my success. And I think that Black women over time, as we've moved out of rearing other people's kids, we've struggled then coming back into the role to rearing our own kids and maintaining some type of success. And I think we're seeing that in the way that we are lost with our current generation of children who don't seemingly have any parents, which is the complete opposite of what used to be, where you not only had your parents, but you had a community that was parenting you. Now we have the flip side of that. And it seems like somehow, some way, we've essentially exhausted ourselves in raising other people's children from slavery up until, recently. And now we have a generation of people who are unable to meet the demand of what it is to rear a child and really kind of build our community off of our backs. And I wonder why that is. What created that disconnect between the women we have now, my generation and younger, to the people we have that are my mother and older, who raise other people's kids, raise their kids, and still manage to provide for us?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. My mind was jumping around a lot too when I say that, because first of all, I didn't know that about her. I didn't know. That's a one thing. I mean, the GED thing, that's what I didn't know. I knew about the nanny thing. Yeah. And it's crazy that we think about that, because they are the strongest people on this planet. And we don't see that. Like, and as you're talking about it, you made me think of the movie The Help, right? Looking at that movie, but also thinking about this too. She changed that little girl, which means she changed the future. So as you were talking about this, I really started to think about it. I was like, your mother, my cousin, was changing the future by helping those other kids, but also raising you to show you what you are capable of, but also showing those other kids, we are nothing to fear. We are just like you. They probably loved your mom as much, or if not more, than their own parents.
They absolutely do. I can confirm. And I can tell you that in addition to my mother's 4 children, she raised 5 white children, from diapers to going off to college.
I have to say, and I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm going to drop her name on here, but Augustine is an amazing woman. And I have never, ever told her that. But hopefully she sees this episode and you're able to see or share this with her. Or and if she doesn't, you tell her. But you are an amazing woman and have never been nothing less than awe-inspiring. From your culinary skills, from the way you ran and held your household, and to even what you did with your children. Simply amazing. And I appreciate you even having a hand in raising me and being there for me and my family. I thank you and I love you. I really wanted to say that. But I'm also going to say this conversation is a big eye-opener for me, because it shows me more of what I've thought about, but never actually put it out there in the universe. I think it's safe to say we all have had this thought in the back of our mind, but to say it out loud and to have it in the front of us is a whole nother thing. We don't ever get this time to really, or I can't say we don't, because obviously Eddie married his queen. And I don't know what Cranberry does, but I heard he has his own harem or whatever. I'm just playing. He's got his own Bible study group, but he's the only guy in there. I'm just messing with you. I'm just playing. But we don't have enough time. We don't talk like this. We don't talk like this, and we need to more. So I would like to say to those listening out there, join our Discord. We want to have another conversation like this, but we want to have more Black women. As many Black men are on this, we need more Black women. We had another one in, but unfortunately things got in the way of that. But hopefully next time we can make some time. I mean, she'll be able to be on here with us. But Erica, you have done more than just been a great voice. And I knew you'd be perfect for this. But you have brought so much light to this conversation, and I thank you. and your kids are truly blessed to have you. And any man that darkens your door is lucky. I don't know if you got a boyfriend right now. All right, good. That's good to know. But hopefully there is a king that's ready for you to be his queen, because if that ever happens, it'll be the best thing. Don't worry, I'll be looking for him too. I'll keep my eyes out. I don't know if Christian's single, but I mean, he's a good dude. But I mean, I don't know. I'll just put that out there.
Omega's matchmaking services at
Go
its finest.
I'm just messing with it.
Erica, do you have any questions for us? Anything that you feel like we didn't touch upon that would be important to within this discussion?
I do have a question for you guys that I would love for each of you to answer in some way, shape, or form. You brought the topic to the table that Black women are oppressed and not supported. After now we've had this conversation, what are you personally thinking about implementing or thinking about or discussing with the people in your life, and how you could potentially change the lack of support or the oppression of Black women?
Beautiful question. If
I
go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead.
I would so I've had this conversation with groups of Black people before. And the one thing that I noticed that us Black men don't do is just listen. Wholeheartedly listen. And I've learned that's the key to friendship, that's the key to a relationship, marriage, that's the key to all understanding. When somebody is telling you a hardship that they're going through, and you're giving them buts and well why, instead of taking what they're saying for what it is, you're diluting what they're trying to tell you. So I would say to all men, especially the brothers out there, let's listen to Black women. Let's listen to them and act upon what they're telling us, not on what we think or what we've seen from other Black women who might be immature, you know? So yeah, that would be my contribution.
Beautiful answer. Thank you. For me personally, is to continue to ask and listen, so that I know better how to support, especially the Black women in my life immediately. Being able to understand where it is they feel not supported, where they feel a lacking of, Black man energy, and being able to show up, be there, and listen. Because I feel like that, is very important. And as well, continue to be as vocal as I am, just about our issues, but about, Black women's issues and everybody's issues. Thank you for that question.
For me, I would say not just listening, but really hear them out and take our prejudices that we may have from possible failed relationship or bad experiences, and let not that taint what we're hearing. And also for me, it's just to talk to more young brothers and basically be like, hey, hear her out. Don't come with your biasness, but also let that sit down through your generation. So if you're a father, let that fall to your son. That son fall to your grandchild, just so you know that this can be a generational thing and that this is not over by like 2022. I feel like the Black women need to be protected in more ways than one.
For me, I'm going to continue working with the kids and working on that. That's just really where I've been, and teaching them how to speak and how to treat women, and also letting them understand and teaching them how to start to see the Black woman in the light that they deserve to be in. I feel like that's something that I'm able to do. And then another thing too is to have more representation be around us. I feel like they have their voice, they have their pockets, but they're not there's not enough representation. So I say that to say this, and hopefully, I mean, Z will be okay with me saying this, but why don't you be a regular? I want to open this door and have you here. We have 6, 7, 8 Black males on this show every week. Well, why not have you? You have such a beautiful, strong voice, and I really mean that. I mean, granted, yes, I know you got Tuesdays. I know it's busy. It's a long chunk of time, whichever, and I respect that. But I'm letting you know right now, this is a way we can do that. So I'm gonna reach this out to you and give you your time. I mean, this is an open platform. We're small. We're still getting started. We're still growing. But I mean, how often do you get an opportunity to speak to the world about how you feel and be unapologetically Black about it? You know, this is my thing. If I can change it, if I can, whatever I can do to help the Black woman, I'm gonna do. And right now, I want to help you and give you that voice and that opportunity. So it's up to you. Take it. Don't answer now. I know you got a lot to think about and a lot to consider, but just know that my partner and I, obviously, you see how he is. He's ready to jump to the screen and be right there and be like, here, this is what you got to do. Here. Right? But that's how I feel. Like, that's why I asked Eddie about bringing his wife on. I feel a Black woman has such an amazing soul and spirit to share with the world. And your voice needs to be heard. Not just wants to be heard, needs to be heard.
I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree. To add on to just one more thing that I feel like is also important for us to do is to continue to do research, to continue to uncover these things, these oppressive, systematic things that are put in place within ourselves, within our community, within our society, and be able to work towards correcting them, to change them. So, like you said, not having a Black woman be someone we need to protect, but to be able to hit it at the source and look at what we're trying to protect them from and changing those things. Whether that's, us as men, us as Black men, us as a society, in general. And yes, absolutely. The reason why Omega and I work so well together is he can talk and I'll just mime him from the side. And I agree, though, because we're on the same wavelength. It would be wonderful because a Black woman's voice is very important. It's very powerful. Like I say a lot in my regular life is words are powerful. Words are magic. What you speak can be brought into existence. And the biggest catalyst for that power behind those words is passion. And that's something Black women have a lot of. Same with Black men. It's important. It's important that we continue this. It's important that we have all of our voices amplified. I love being Black. Hey, didn't I buy you that? but really, so thank you very much for joining us.
I would like to say one thing. Erica, can you, don't worry, I'm not going to say leave us in prayer. I'm going to say, can you leave us with a little bit of knowledge? One lasting thing that you would like to say to the public in response, in support of you. And also, if you would like to have anybody follow you or find you on social media, you can definitely do that or leave it there. It's all up to you.
My final thoughts on this topic, the lack of support and oppression of Black women, is I think it's time for us to set that aside and for Black women to speak up. And when you're invited to these platforms and the opportunity presents itself, to not be afraid to speak about what we need. A lot of times, we don't get the help or the support that we need because we have been told and taught to be strong. And so we don't ask for the support when we need it. So I think one of the main things as a Black woman that I can do and other Black women can do is take the opportunity to speak up for what we need when we feel supported, not supported when we feel oppressed. Reach out to our Black men who are ready to support us and advocate for us and tell them what we need. And, march on fearless and fierce to, turn the page on this and get ahead of it and finally rise above all of the nonsense and the blockers and the challenges and the troubles that we face. Because now is the time. I feel like we are finally supported in a way that we haven't been. People are having these conversations. They're at the table. So let's take our seat and participate and press forward.
Beautiful and wise words. I appreciate that. You ready?
Before we do this, I have to give a shout out. I have to give a shout out to Camino, California. They are a great place that was down the street. Thank you guys for taking care of us and showing great support for the podcast. They actually started checking us out today.
Wonderful. Thank you guys. Thank you. And yeah.
That's the local brewery down the street from my house, by the way. And yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. And Molly's Catering, the Gustavo, he's the one that cooked and made a phenomenal meal. So that was the dude, Fire Tacos.
Funding the belly of our co-hosts. Fantastic. Thank you. I want to leave you all on this question. Please feel free to answer this in our Discord. The link will be in the description, as I say in the beginning. But I have a few questions for you guys. Directed towards women, but how have you felt oppressed as a Black person and as a Black woman? And what would you specifically change if you could? So yeah, feel free to answer those questions out on our Discord and even drop insight on what we as men can do to help Black women feel more supported, feel more loved. And if you guys want to continue in supporting this show, please check out our Patreon as well. Again, the link for support will be in the description down below. Now, I implore you all to raise your glasses. As I say in the beginning, I thank y'all for joining us on the Have a Drink podcast, where we've invited you to come sit, think, and have a drink. So please come back. What was that face, Omega?
Eddie is about to drink his hand sanitizer.
Eddie,
put that down.
No hand sanitizer. Bad Eddie. Down. Do not down the Lysol.
Hey, you can't be too safe, man.
It's not for your insides, bro.
Put it down.
Come on, man.
We'll raise a glass to all of you. Come back again to sit, think, and have a drink. This has been the Have a Drink podcast. I love y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you, Erica.